Hello everybody, I'm Ethan Hott. I'm a junior at Maricosta High School, and I've been swimming for about 9 years now, 3 with Ocean Fever. I've been part of the cadet program at LA Lifeguards, and I've been doing it for a few years now. I'm probably going to do it this year again. I'm really interested in helping the community out in any way possible. I've been doing the Feed the Needy program for almost 2 years now, and helping roaming out whenever possible. I'm really interested in aerospace and anything to do with like stars and space and any engineering breakthroughs I'm always on top of. I want to learn as much as possible. This summer I'm really looking at internships in Boeing and all the aerospace companies down in El Segundo. And yes, thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Ruka, I'm Romy's son. I'm 16, I go to Redondo Union High School. I was on the water polo team and I'm currently on the surf team. I work at Mickey's in Hermosa, and this summer I'll be working in Huntington as an ocean lifeguard. And yeah, and we're going to be introducing Kevin Shinnick.
Hey, wait, before that, what did you do last summer?
Last summer I did swim the Catalina Channel with Romy. It was probably one of the hardest swims I've ever done just because of how cold it was out there. And all the jellyfish, I got stung a lot. But it was really fun.
What's your kayak? What's your kayak?
The person I'm introducing today is actually the kayaker that did it with us. I forgot about that. He was actually a big motor support, having his kayak out there with lights.
Alright, so Kevin grew up, he was intensely scared of the deep end of the pool until he was 5 years old. But since then, there's rarely been a day that he hasn't been out in the water. After graduating from LMU, Kevin raced a number of triathlons, and after completing his second Ironman distance race, he started focusing on marathon ocean swims.
Kevin is one of only 140 American swimmers that have completed the triple crown of swimming, the English Channel, the Catalina Channel, the circumnavigation in Manhattan Island in New York. Kevin also found a new passion recently as a kayak supporter of the Catalina Channel swims and has run several successful solo and relay swims over the past 2 summers. The ocean is his passion, and it's safe to say he is no longer scared of the deep end.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Carly. That was great, actually. It's funny because as Carly's speaking, I keep going, oh, I gotta make a note because I want to add on that. And it's funny because a lot of us ocean swimmers, we have these same experiences, even though it's a very individual sport. Individual to the point where you're always swimming by yourself, even though you have a lot of support out there with you most of the time, hopefully. But it's funny because one thing Carly said is that the ocean is healing. And I think all of us that have been in the ocean have thought that at one point. And my wife is not an ocean person, and she thinks I'm crazy when I go, oh, I have a cold, I need to go get in the ocean and heal. It'll get me better. Or, oh, I'm hungover, I need to get in the ocean. But so it's just a funny thing. But anyway, I have notes on my phone, that's why I'm holding my phone. I'm not waiting for a call. I started out as a swimmer in high school. I grew up in San Gabriel Valley. I went to LaSalle High School up there, and just like a lot of you guys, I swam for 4 years, played water polo for 4 years, went to Loyola Marymount, joined the water polo team my freshman year until I had to get a job and ran out of money, so that was the end of that. But I kept swimming on the side. Hopefully everybody's okay there. Uh-oh. Okay, we will keep going until we see what's going on out there. Okay, so anyway, I'm not gonna think about that. So grew up swimming, water polo, and then I got into triathlons. After I was got out of college, I started doing triathlons, and eventually I realized I could go long distances. And like Carly, it's like I'm not fast. I'm not a fast swimmer. I knew in high school and all through when I was a kid, I'm not fast, but I realized I could go far. And with triathlons, I just kept pushing it a little bit more. My first triathlon was down here in Hermosa. I think it was the Hermosa, the short one, the very, very short race that seemed long at that time. But then eventually, a couple years into it, I realized, you know what, I can keep going, I can do it further. And then you just go for it, you do an Ironman, and you're like, that's amazing. I don't know how I pulled that off. But after that, I'm not a runner, so my knees were really screaming at me, so I got back more into swimming. And from swimming, it's like a lot of us, when we get in for the first time in the ocean, like we may have surfed when we were kids, we may have boogie boarded, but when you start swimming in the ocean, it's a completely different experience than boogie boarding or surfing or just swimming out and jumping over waves with your friends. Because when you're swimming in the ocean and you put your head down and you're out beyond the surf break, there's no lane lines, you can't see where you're going, you have to try to sight off something that's you can barely see, and it's very disorienting. And a group of my friends that I was swimming in the pool with invited me to come down to the ocean, and they said, hey, we generally do like 1 to 2 miles, come meet with us. And just like all of us, we had our first day in the ocean, and I went down there, swam a mile, came home, and I told my wife, I'm like, that was amazing. It changed my life on that day. I'm like, I cannot believe I just swam a mile in the ocean. And she goes, really? And I'm like, it's crazy fun. And from that day, I realized, okay, I could do 2 miles, maybe I could do 3 miles. And so over the course of a couple years, I graduated up to different distances. Until that point comes when you go, you know what? Life is short. I want to see if I can just push it to the limit. And so I said, I want to do the English Channel. And the English Channel is roughly, give or take, 20, 21 miles across. And then you start doing your research and you start getting a little scared because all the people that have done this before you are scaring the heck out of you, going, oh, I've been training for 10 years, or all I did was sit in a bathtub full of ice for like a year to get ready for the cold, and you're like, oh my God, what the hell am I doing here? So, you go through that nonsense. But also, one thing that Carly said was that a lot of it's mental. A lot of the training for our long distance swims is mental. And there's a good saying that you'll see when you're training for these is that people say it's 100% physical and it's 100% mental. And that can't be further, that is the truth. That is absolutely the truth. So when we do our long swims, so like I was saying, I've done the English Channel, which took me 18 and a half hours. It was one of the worst swims I think I've ever hopefully go through. And Catalina, and I swam around Manhattan and swam the Strait of Gibraltar. You have to develop a mental skill because you have no sense of, first of all, it's dark. A lot of times you're in the middle of the night and you can't see anything except either the boat next to you or the kayaker next to you. So you can't count laps. There's nothing to keep you going except what's inside of you and what you've developed mentally. Some ocean swimmers sing songs inside their head, but everybody has to find their own way mentally, and that's one of the biggest challenges of how to get by that. So in the last couple of years, what I've been helping with is this phenomenal organization called Ocean Fever, and this has been tremendous because it is it's one of my favorite days of the year. And I told Romy this, it's like even last year when I got the opportunity to be the kayaker for the relay team, and it was a tandem relay team, which presents another challenge, which I'll talk about. 2 years ago, I got to be the kayaker for the first relay team, the inaugural, I think, relay that you guys did across Catalina. And that was one of the most special days for me because as a kayaker, you appreciate really what the swimmers are going through because you've swam it. And you know how hard it is to jump off a boat at 11 o'clock at night off the coast of Catalina, and it's freaky because you can't see, and you're already been puking because the boat's shaking and everything else. So as a kayaker, I have this unique sense of like, I know what they're going through. I know what they're going through. So that was a great night. But then last year we did it as a tandem, and it was fast. It was really fast. So that was tough for me, but I was able to pull that off, thank goodness, and I'm looking forward to doing it again this year. So that's kind of where I was that's kind of been my life for the last 10 years. Ocean swimming has been great. We learn a lot, but, and this is where I might need my phone, because I wrote down three key things that I wanted to talk about. I thought about this on the way down. The things that are kind of successful things, and this kind of is for the youth here, as you guys are getting into the point where well, these three things are for a lot of the young swimmers here, the youth swimmers. One of the things is that the way to be successful of ocean swimming, one key thing is self-discipline. Because there's a lot of times you're going to have the workouts that Romy's going to put together and say, okay, you have to show up. And showing up is a massive part of this. You have to show up. But there's going to be other times where it's like you have to be disciplined on your own, and you have to be self-motivated. And there's going to be days where you don't want to swim. There's going to be days where you don't want to swim, and there's going to be days where you absolutely don't want to work out. And that goes for all of us, whether we're in the pool with our master's program, or out the pool by ourselves, or walking into the ocean. But the trick is just show up. And if there's a day that comes by where you don't want to swim and you just aren't feeling it, it's fine. You'll get to that point you're like, it's fine not to practice for a day. That's okay, but just show up. And at least make the effort to get out of bed and get there. That is a big one. The other one is that a lot of times when we think about like, oh, how could you plan on swimming from Point Doom to Palos Verdes? It's an incredible distance to swim, things like that. It sounds impossible, but one of the tricks that you do is you break it down incrementally. So like Carly was saying, is you train with a 4-mile train and then a 6-mile, and you just break it all down in these small little increments into bite-sized chunks. And when we do the relay, or when you do an individual swim that's that long, you break it down, and I assume all of us have done this, is you kind of break it down into bite-sized chunks. So a lot of us, as we're doing these long swims, a lot of us, the general thing is you might feed every 30 minutes. That's kind of a usual thing for most people, is they'll take a feed every 30 minutes. So if you're swimming for 10 hours and you're like, okay, I gotta do 20 feeds approximately, and you're just swimming from half hour to half hour, half hour to half hour, and that's all you're doing. You're not thinking, oh my God, I gotta go swim 20 miles. It's more of like, I just gotta get to the next 30-minute feed. And that's just a mental thing. So you break it down to these incremental chunks, and you'll get there. And then the last thing, this is where I think I have to use my phone, because I wrote this note, sorry guys. The last one, oh, I know what it was. It was, and this is gonna sound weird, but I've heard this one before, and it was like, you gotta find your why. Like, find why are you doing this? Why are you swimming these long swims? And you may not know when you set out to start swimming, and you may not know why you want to go swim the peer-to-peer. And for most people that swim the peer-to-peer, that is the bucket list event right there. But it's like, if you ask yourself why, and you have that answer, you're set. Because you'll always know, like, I got it, I did it, I know what it is. My why of why I was swimming these long swims didn't come until, I think it was after I swam the English Channel. My mom was asking me, why? Like, why? Because, you know, your parents are freaked out. They're like, is this guy gonna die? Are there bad fish underneath him? You know what I mean? I don't like to use that other word, but are there things underneath him that could bite him? But she said why? Like, why? And it's really hard to put it into words, why, but for us, for the long distance swimmers, there's something, and for long distance runners and anybody who does this, there's something on the other side that we have to find. And it's internal, and it's like you're pushing yourself beyond what you think you can do. And you're pushing yourself to a point where mentally, your brain is telling you that's not possible. It's not possible to swim for a 36 miles up a river. It's just not possible. But your body can do it, and your mental state gets you there. And when you find that why, you made it. And so for the youth that are doing the relay, it's like there's gonna be a day where you're gonna ask yourself, like, why am I waking up this early? Why am I doing this? Why am I getting this water that's absolutely freezing? Why am I jumping off a boat at 11 p.m. off the coast of Catalina, where I can't even see the finish line, and I have no idea? And why are my friends all cheering me on in the middle of the night? I have no idea. You're gonna be disoriented. It's when you find that why, it might be the moment you guys land on that beach, you might have that answer. Because the moment that all 6 or 12 of these guys, or the whole group with the reserves and everything else, land on that beach, I'm telling you, there's no better feeling of succeeding on this swim. So I'm looking forward to that day. It's gonna be fantastic. And just for all your training, you guys have a lot of training to do. So I'm looking forward to seeing you guys out there. I'll be out there with you, but as your kayaker, I will be right next to you the whole time, supporting you and making absolutely sure you have whatever you need to get you to the finish line, okay? Thanks, guys.